Our Border Patrol doesn't get nearly enough credit. Man, they do a lot of great things. Seriously great things. Saving people's lives over and over and over and over. And they get no credit for that. I mean, they find people in bad ways at the border all the time because, I don't know if you know this, but when you cross the border, you're not necessarily in the nicest, most civilized part of the country.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of times it's hot. And there's very little water to go around. You might have a long walk ahead of you, even when you get here. Yeah, depending on where you cross, it can be somewhat dangerous. And the Border Patrol finds people, brings them to hospitals, gives them medical care on site a lot of times, gives them water and food and sustenance, and then a place to stay. And they just found, I mean, this is heartbreaking. One of the agents on the border just found an abandoned 10-year-old boy last week in the Texas desert near the U.S.-Mexico border. He was with a big group of people who were crossing the border with coyotes. Apparently his family wasn't with him. And they just abandoned him. And they just left him there and took off. So the child is seen sobbing and asking for help, and he tells the border agent was off duty when he found him, and he said he was trying to find his way home. Said, and they can rob me, kidnap me. I'm scared. Well, yeah, you're 10. I'm older than 10. I'd be scared being abandoned on the border like that. So the agent asks, well, what happened? And the boy says, it's that I was walking with a group and they left me behind and I don't know where they're at. Then the agent asks him, you don't know where you're at? They left you behind, alone? And the boy replies, of course they left me. They left you behind by yourself. You're not traveling with your mom or dad or anybody. And he says, nobody. I was with a group to turn myself in to you and they left me behind and I came to look for help. This is part of the border situation that's never discussed. Then it falls to us to take care of poor kids like this who've been abandoned or turned over by their family to some group of people that's heading north to the border. A coyote, perhaps, who probably made $7,000 per person in the group. And they don't really care about anybody. They got their money. They don't care about anybody in that group.
No.
And so securing the border is good for everybody. Mm-hmm. It stops a lot of these problems. It's not going to stop all of them, but it will discourage, if you have a secure border, a border wall, and good enforcement, and border patrols that monitor who's jumping over the wall and who isn't, you're going to cut down on these kinds of incidents. They just will. Less and less of these kinds of things will happen. You're not going to have 18,000 unaccompanied children that you're going to have to house somewhere. 7 times the number that they had at the peak of Donald Trump when everybody was crying and screaming about what a horrible humanitarian crisis that was.
It will never cease to amaze me that the humanitarian side of this argument is we should just let people flow over the border into the deserts.
Isn't that
see
crazy?
What happens.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's incentivizing this behavior, of course, by promising, we went from a president who at least publicly signaled he didn't want people to come across the border and did do a lot of things to try to help that process along. Very difficult to get that stuff done, of course. But to a president who says, hey, yeah, sure, don't come. Of course, if you do come, we want to tell you right now that if you are a child, anybody under 18, you're automatically not going back. I mean, that's what he said.
Yeah, you're in.
You're automatically
we're not
in.
going to send you back. And we're going to give you food and shelter, and we're going to find a place for you to live. Because now it's our responsibility. We're going to do all that. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And the problem is so bad now that not only do they have these overcrowded facilities at the border, It's clear up to Long Beach, California now. The Long Beach Convention Center has now been taken over by the Biden administration to house migrants. It's the 12th overflow facility that they're using. Now the number is more than 20,000 unaccompanied migrant children in its custody. 20,000. That's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. But it's not a crisis to the Bidens and the Biden administration. And it's all Trump's fault. If you were to listen to what they're saying, they're still blaming Donald Trump for this.
Of course. They're going to be doing this forever. They're still blaming George W. Bush for stuff, let alone Donald Trump. What I find it really interesting about this whole debate, there's been this back and forth about whether it's a crisis. Jen Psaki kind of famously flubbed it and said it was a crisis by mistake, but they've been pretty good at trying to deny this is a crisis. It's just a humanitarian challenge and all these things. And while I understand the attempt on our side to say, no, this is a crisis and you should admit it's a crisis. And, look, it's true in many, many ways. However, is it true to them? We keep saying it's not a crisis. They should be admitting it. Is it really a crisis to the Biden administration?
Yeah, probably not.
When
not.
They've dedicated their entire policy to say, basically, we want you here.
Yeah.
They'll say occasionally, oh, well, look, we just wait. Don't come right now. But, they ran with the idea of this past president who tried to stop you from crossing the border was Hitler. And we're going to do the opposite of what Hitler would do here. We're going to make sure that you're treated fairly, that you have a path to citizenship. And he even said, we're going to do this in the first 100 days. So if you are someone in Honduras who maybe wants to take advantage of this, when should you get here? Within the first 100 days, right? He's telling you in advance this is what he wants to do. And so I thought of it this way: remember when Popeyes released the chicken sandwich? Their chicken sandwich I think it was last year or the year before. And it was
it was a big deal.
Big deal, right? And Popeyes came out. They spent a lot of time making this chicken sandwich. They went through all the chefs and they did taste tests and all this and came up with they believe was the perfect chicken sandwich. And then they advertised the chicken sandwich. And they had people tweeting about the chicken sandwich. And they made a big deal about the chicken sandwich. And then they released the chicken sandwich. And you know what? People liked it so much that they lined up at Popeyes all across the country. And the line went down the street. And they sold so many freaking chicken sandwiches that they ran out of chicken sandwiches. A chicken place ran out of chicken sandwiches. Was that a crisis for Popeyes? Now, they might say, look, in theory, would we love to have enough chicken sandwiches to be able to serve to all these people at Popeyes? Sure, I'm sure they would. But would they describe it as a crisis? No. It went exactly how they planned, only better. And that is how the Biden administration is looking at this. It isn't a nuisance, right? I don't think that they want to be dealing with these PR things that are going on with kids, at the border and all of this. That they'd rather be spending their, trillions of dollars and banning guns right now, and they'd rather have it be smoother on the border. I bet that they don't want to necessarily have to do these things in these ways. However, they do want all of these people in the country eventually. The fact that they showed up a few weeks early is not a crisis to them.
True.
To our country, sure. To them, no.